Chris is a great dude, but I got no idea why he's standing here with an old beat-up fridge. I mean, where's that Cadillac? One day, I will get him to sell me that car.
If you didn't know the origins of Counting Cars, you'd think it was one of the biggest standalone car reality shows in the world.
It's such an honor to be here. This is the greatest show ever, in the greatest city ever. I grew up here, by the way, for those of you that didn't know.
And it is, but there's only one big difference. Counting Cars is a spin-off of Pawn Stars, another extremely successful show. Today, you might think that it's obvious that Counting Cars would be a hit reality show. I mean, who wouldn't want to watch a bunch of mean-looking guys with rough voices fix cars and then flip them for a profit? I mean, that's like peak car television right there, right? Yes, it may seem obvious now, but hindsight is 2020. When Counting Cars was created for television, it was done as a spin-off of Pawn Wars, a widely successful show. However, Counting Cars has grown a lot since then, and most of the show's newer fans don't even know that it's a spin-off show. But we all know that success comes at a price. While Counting Cars is very popular today, it wasn't always so. The show had to overcome a lot of adversity and difficulties in its early days, and that period has a lot of secrets buried in it. This video, however, will be going into the past and even the present of Counting Cars, and will be exploding all the dark secrets you never knew about the show. And we can tell you one thing for free right now, there are a lot of secrets to offer. Whenever you watch an episode of Counting Cars, you get the idea that the shop is low on funds and needs to get as much money out of a particular deal as they can.
I'm selling some cars to invest in my business. That's why some of them are here, man, as merely an investment. So I'm selling them to work on my business.
This idea had a lot of cinematic or dramatic value since it's a way of artificially increasing the stakes on a particular sale. This sense of urgency that's connected with the shop's on-screen poverty may look cute, but it's merely for dramatic effect. And it works. When you understand that the shop has to get as much money from a particular car as they can, you get interested in the negotiation process. You get interested in the process of making the car. You start to care because it has a meaning. But guess what? It's all for dramatic effect. Now, we wouldn't say that the folks at Counts Customs have unlimited funds. However, we would say that they have the funds to leave a few thousands on the table. That means whether or not they make money from selling a vehicle is almost irrelevant. The fact that the show keeps on pushing the narrative that the garage is barely in the green is simply done for cinematic value. The truth is that Counts Custom can barely even complete the jobs that they get on regular days. Since Counting Cars is commercial success, the fame of the garage has grown far and wide, and suddenly everyone wants to get their cars fixed there, even at exorbitant prices. Aside from that, Danny Coker, the owner of the garage, is now a multi-millionaire, so he quite literally doesn't have to worry about money. Another secret that you wouldn't know if you weren't in the know about the show is that Danny Coker is quite powerful. And not just powerful as in being a boss on the show, but powerful as in being the main boss. He's not only the sole owner of the garage, but he's also a director on the show, so he calls the shots off the set and on it. In some episodes of the show, Counting Cars makes it look like Danny Coker isn't the main man at the garage. Sometimes when Kevin Mack, the manager of the garage, is speaking to Danny, you kind of get the idea that both men are equals, or that Danny, if for some reason, is subservient to Mack. However, that's entirely untrue. Danny Coker runs everything in the shop and answers to no one, aside from maybe his wife, but that's a story for another day. So now we know two things. Counts Customs is probably the richest garage in Las Vegas, and Danny Coker is almost a god emperor in his garage. What else can we learn? Let's find out. When you're creating a hit TV reality show, you need to add a lot of bells and whistles to make it watchable. That's because human general interactions can be quite boring, and even when they are interesting, they can be quite underwhelming. That's why reality TV showrunners need to invent drama. This sort of invented drama is usually replicable, easy to fake, and reasonable. For Counting Cars, that drama is the shock on the face of clients whenever members of the garage had a surprise look or feature to the car. I mean, think of it, if you paid a lot of money to people to fix your car, wouldn't you get kind of angry that the people supposed to fix it painted the head of a gnome on it? Of course you would be. So how does Counting Cars pass this hurdle? The answer is pretty simple. They just ask for permission from the people who own the cars. They give them a list of little quirky additions that can be added to the car, and the client agrees or disagrees. If the changes are implemented, the owner of the vehicle is told to look genuinely surprised when the cars are delivered. So all those slightly bemused faces you see or those exaggerated behaviors you see on screen are great examples of awful acting. Another dark secret of counting cars is the fact that a lot of the show is scripted or staged. Yes, we know. It's reality TV, and it should ideally not be scripted. But here's the thing. We're in 2022, and the reality in reality TV shows no longer means non-scripted and hasn't meant that for a while. One of the most enjoyable parts of an average Counting Cars episode is the part where Danny gets into the act of accosting people on the street and handing them wads of cash for their cars. That's the thing though, it's merely an act. Imagine how you would feel if someone who looked like Danny pulled up to your driveway with a crew of 4 to 5 cameras with all their paraphernalia, and then handed you a wad of cash and asked you to sell your limited edition car to them. What would you say? You'd probably tell them to kick rocks. That's probably why it doesn't happen on television either. All of the clients you see getting accosted on the road are merely playing a stage drama. All of them, every single one, have been met before the show, and things like price and duration of car repair have always been settled before the show. We do concede though, that despite being staged, these parts of the show were actually pretty interesting. Another part of the show that looks great but is usually staged is customer satisfaction. After every job, the show paints the clients as being more than satisfied with the job they've gotten. The truth is a bit different from that. While in the television world of Counting Cars, all the garage mechanics are blessed with the gift of fixing cars, it isn't that way in the real world. A few of the customers from the show have come out with very serious complaints about the quality of work done at the garage. Some report the car breaking down just a week after leaving the garage, and others say that the garage's makeover just made their cars run worse. Of course, that's to be expected. The real world isn't some fairy tale, and people will not always be satisfied with your efforts. Could even say sometimes your effort may not be satisfactory. The main issue is that someone is bound to end up dissatisfied. At this point, you may want to ask what's exactly real about Counting Cars. What's really on the show? Or is it just a terrible series about cars that has fooled everyone into thinking it's a proper reality TV show? That's a great question. But the question you ought to be asking instead is if there's anything even real about reality shows in the first place. While reality shows are rarely scripted, they are mostly staged. Aside from that, people who are on these shows are usually encouraged to invent some drama and be the most exaggerated versions of themselves to keep the viewers interested in the show. It's the same for Counting Cars too. A lot of conversations in the show are staged. Yes, even the conversations. The reason is that normal conversation is rarely so interesting. However, if people have the incentive to have a conversation that people would be interested in, they would go on to have a bombshell of a conversation, which is what most showrunners of reality TV shows are looking for. And finally, for the last secret, you should know, Danny Coker once used to be the host of a pretty outrageous nighttime television show that featured horror movies by the name of Saturday Fright at the Movies. On the show, he played a Count Cool writer, which was a vampire, but a cool one, if there's anything like that. Can you imagine Danny in a vampire coat? Well, yes we can, and here's the picture. Cute, right? While the other things we've listed in this video may be easily accessible and may not be dark secrets, we kind of think that Danny Coker's romance with vampires is a dark secret both literally and figuratively.